Hello, welcome to CC Cycle 2, Week 17. This is a quick recap of what we did in Community Day this week. For a timeline, I'll show you the hand motions quickly. So Napoleon is an N, Emperor is an E with a sash. So Crowned Emperor of France is the F with the flourish. Liberation of South America, we're going to cross our arms and open them for liberate. And then South America, we're just going to do an S and swipe down. So liberation of South America. The War of 1812, so we do war and then bombs exploding for 1812. The Missouri Compromise is we're thinking, so Missouri Compromise, and then that's your two fingers, and that means kind of a line. So that's Missouri Compromise. Immigrants flock to America, you're going to have kind of a cupped left hand and your sweep under. So immigrants flock to America, and then America is where you interlock your fingers and you just kind of like circle around your tummy. So immigrants flock to America. The Monroe Doctrine is your fists together and then you expand. So the Monroe Doctrine, and then Romantic Period of the Arts. They were expressionists, so we're going to go from sad to happy. And so it'll be Romantic Period of the Arts. For math, this is week 2 in our math equations, and so last week was the area of a rectangle equals length times width, and then the area of a square equals length of its side squared s squared. For history, tell me about the World War II leaders. I'm just going to do the hand signs for you. So World War II, Axis as we cross our arms. Axis leaders were Hitler of Germany is the eagle, Tojo of Japan, Japan is the island, and Mussolini of Italy, you kick with your foot, kind of like the boot shape of Italy. So kick with your foot for that. World War II Allied, we link our hands. Allied leaders were Churchill of England, and England is where you grab the small side of your hand. And Roosevelt is an R. Eisenhower, you point to your eye. MacArthur, you salute. Of the United States, hand on your chest. And Stalin, we just trace a mustache. Of the USSR. For Latin, it's first conjugation endings, future tense. We've seen this before, and so we just use the same tune as in the app. For science, the Newton's second law of motion. Newton's second law of motion states that force, we used our hands to push, it's a force, equals mass, we used our muscles. Mass times acceleration, and so we just pretend to run in place. So force equals mass times acceleration. And then English, a noun names a person. We would stand up tall like a person. Place, we kind of show like an area, a thing, something you're holding in your hand. An activity, we were running. And then an idea, point to your brain. And then for Central European countries, this week, they're pretty small. And so I think you can maybe see them there, but Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, and Switzerland. We ended up using this page here so that way they could color code them and see them a little bit easier because this map is really, really tiny. So that is what we did for geography. For fine arts, this week was on Bertha Morisot, and this was a very fun one. She was one of the leading impressionists, and back in her time, women weren't, it wasn't really widely accepted to be considered an artist, or they would stop when they had families, and she continued to do it. And she was really known for her textures, using like big globs of paint and actually like just showing the textures. And so this week we used some textured paints, or put textures in the paints, so that way they could do kind of a backdrop with fields and some greenery, and then the sky, and then we could draw a little figure on there. So that is what we did for fine arts. The science experiment, we had 2 this week. The first one was called Energy Change, and it was basically to see how height affects the energy of a moving object. And so we talked a little bit about the center of gravity pulling us, and so when we did the tape experiment and the different sizes of experiments, and the how rolling had to consume more energy. That is kind of what we discovered here, except it was all in marble. Both times was in marble, so we could see that the height helped the acceleration of the marble to roll faster, and so it had more potential to roll faster. The second one we did was snap, and this was how objects resist change and movement. And so we had a couple objects. I had a full can, and just put some scissors on a sheet of paper, and we had pulled it out, and so we got to see what would happen to the can and the scissors. And then, so we had talked about inertia in a previous week. I think that was week 4, which is the object's resistance to change. And so when something is moving, it wants to continue moving, but something at rest wants to stay at rest. And so we could tie it into how the can wanted to stay at rest. And so force, with our math equation this week, we used force, which was the paper, force pulling out the paper, times mass, and then the acceleration, the speed of us pulling out the paper is what helped it stay in place. And so when we went slower, it came with, because the force was greater than the mass or acceleration. And so that was this week. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.